don't know how much you folks have looked at the history of everything, and I'm going to gather up an item. My cousin, Dan Robinson, he is the son of Naomi Robinson, the second youngest. My mother and Naomi were like two teenage goofballs. So let me, if I could get that bullet. I don't know where she's at right now.
Oh, well. I'm sending
Dan
it.
Robinson has had this for, and if you've heard the stories, before my uncle flew overseas, he flew over Grafton, and he had all of his members of his plane on here sign a letter, and then he dropped it with his ribbon. And I think in Alan's presentation, a gentleman was actually, lived here in Grafton. He was just a youngster and remembers the B-24 flying over, and you know, they're not really a quiet aircraft. They're like some of these Harleys out here, which I mean, I love the sound myself personally, but so Dan has had this for ages, and he wanted to bring this back to Grafton, to present it to the powers to be, to have it available so anyone can look at it. I mean, this is part of history, and he felt deeply, as I do, and my brother, wherever he's at back there, that these should be shared by everyone. You know, history is, to me, is so incredibly important to everyone. If we lose our history, we lose our souls. And all these service members that are here, I don't know if I could have learned Japanese or German. And I know I don't want to learn Russian or Chinese. I apologize, I don't want to offend anybody. So anyway, this is what Dan asked me to present. And he says, I am sure my mother, Naomi, and I'm going to have to put my glasses on, would have been extremely grateful for all the efforts made by so many in order to get her big brother home at last. While it's been 80 years since he was lost, Uncle Roy has never been forgotten. All of his nephews and nieces grew up learning about Uncle Roy. From our mothers and of the dear friends and all the brothers and sisters of this community in Wisconsin, Osaukee County, he was never forgotten. And I think we experienced that today out at the cemetery. I mean, no offense to anybody, but I think this is much bigger than the coronation. Alan Coco told me, and it didn't cost $125 million. So please, and I'm going to leave that up to the community to decide where this is best kept, where it's best displayed, as well as a lot of other items. I'm going to leave that up to them. They know what's best. We're staying, my wife and I are staying in Fort Washington. They got a little museum and stuff there. And I don't know. Whenever we travel, first thing on the list is go to a museum. History is so important, and I mean, History Channel is one of my favorites. Some of my friends call it the Hitler Channel because there's so much about World War II there. But anyway, please feel free to look at this, and you can put that back over there. And then I want to say a couple other things. I mean, I was truly moved by the ceremony. And what started this for me personally, and I will speak a little bit about Leroy, but for me, I was contacted, I think about 10 years ago almost, by an agency that was a subcontractor to the Army. They reached out to find out family members. They needed DNA. It's the only way they're going to identify a lot of these people, a lot of these servicemen. And so my mother and I did the DNA stuff. It's easy, it's simple, it's fast, it isn't a big deal. And I attended probably for almost 10 years a lot of these DPAA meetings. If you're familiar with that agency, the amount of work and effort that they go through to find our servicemen, some of them will never be recovered, unfortunately. But they are out there and they're, wherever they're at, they're bringing our guys home, guys and gals home. So without them, this wouldn't have been happening. And I learned so much going to those DPA meetings, so much. And I was so excited because I think it was a major general that said that the Ploesti raid is going to become a priority. We need to bring those guys back. We need to get them identified. And I was telling my mom, this is great. You know, maybe finally. And then when they found the co-pilot, not found, they identified the co-pilot through the DNA, I said, Mom, you know where your brother was? Right next there, right there. And I said, it's just a matter of time. And unfortunately, none of the sisters made it. My mother didn't make it. And Leroy, oh my Lord, the amount of work. I mean, he should have wrote a book about everything. He went out and he talked to all family members. He did research. He did so much. And he provided, he had, I don't know, volumes and boxes of stuff. And when he passed, his daughter, where's she hiding? She's in the kitchen. Oh, there she is. She had all the stuff. And Alan Buchholz was a good friend of the family, and all that information went to Alan, and it's just volumes of stuff. It's really interesting, some of the letters that were written. I found one, and all this is coming back here to Grafton. But one of the letters I was looking at, my Uncle Roy wrote to my grandparents that, you know, a lot of his crew and other members were upset that they weren't going to be able to have a Christmas because the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. You know, and it's just, you look at that, you read some of these stories, and it was a different time, totally different time. So the DPAA, incredible work they do. Go to the webpage, Google it, and there's tons of stuff there. They find during Vietnam, I mean, they find an aircraft that someone stumbles upon, and there's remains, and they recover the remains. They do archaeological digs. It's just incredible work they do. I would like to move on. I want to thank Ken and the Post for all the work they've done. Craig in the funeral home. I don't know if Craig's here or not, or anybody. Anyway, I'll buy one of you guys a beer. Those guys, Mueller Funeral Home, those guys are incredible. Ken's been incredible. Alan, oh my Lord, like I said, this is much better than coronation of the king for us. Much better. And behind those team leaders were other folks that did so much work. I mentioned Leroy. I didn't have a printer. Excuse me. There's so many other members that did so much work. And I mentioned Leroy, decades. And I mean decades of work. There's tons of letters from Leroy to my mom and to other family members about, you know, I talked to so-and-so, I went here, I did this, I did that. Incredible what he did. So Leroy, decades of work. The Rose Arms Post, Ken's group, the auxiliary, the SAL, members of the Osaki Historical Society, the Grafton Historical Society, the Legion Riders, Boy Scouts, thank you so much. The Grafton DPW, the local law enforcement, especially Grafton Chief, Catherine Miller. I want to pronounce his name right. Does anyone know the Grafton chief?
Caponera.
Caponera? Family members, all you folks. I mean, oh my Lord, I just was so amazed and astonished of the turnout. It was incredible. And I guarantee you, when it's time for the rest of us, there's going to be a same turnout. I don't want, I'm not talking about the next couple of weeks. It's got to be down the road decades. Our family members, Slade, my brother, who's made trips over here, I don't know how many times, working with Alan and everybody. It's just, and if I'm missing someone, please let me know, because it was a total community group effort, and I'm proud to be part of that as a family member. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. I want to thank the Rose Harms Auxiliary for preparing our meals, and past members, auxiliary, everybody. And then we've got a big group, Jan and the Colson family, which was, Jenny Colson was my grandmother, and we got our Harms people. And so, thank you again. It really is a proud moment for me, and I'm very honored to be with you folks. I'm out in Arizona. I traveled 2,000 miles across beautiful Nebraska. The winds were blowing like this. I told my wife, I said, you know, the wind has not stopped since I left. 40, 50 mile gusts, and you see the Harleys going down the road like this. And but I made it, and thank you again. And I will turn it back over to Ken. And if I've missed anything, and maybe what's important, if you like, we should toast to my uncle, to the community, to all the members that have served our country. Thank you so much. God bless.
Come on.